We almost think we can like plan a perfect future for ourselves. That itching anxiety of what if it goes wrong? There's this illusion that control will give you peace. Whereas Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. You will find rest in me. Welcome back to another video, and I am so glad to have you here. If you haven't met me before, my name is Emily, and what should you expect from this video, from this channel? I just try to be real. I try to talk about things that people don't like to talk about sometimes, and I just want to be raw and genuine, whether it's like a sister, like a friend, just sitting next to you, talking through life, you know, whether you've been here or not. I'm so glad to have you. This is the third part, the third chapter of the Human Heart series. In our first chapter, if you will, we talked about why we want to matter as humans, right? Like why it's so significant to not be ignored, to be acknowledged, to be seen, and why do we want some sort of significance to come out of our lives, to not want to waste our lives away, right? So that was the first chapter. The second chapter was more about why we hide parts of ourselves, why we don't bring our whole selves to the table, and why people-pleasing often drives that sort of mentality, and why that ends up being dissatisfying for us, because when we don't bring our real selves, when we aren't genuine, we won't be able to participate in genuine relationships. People won't get to know the real us. And then this is the third chapter, which is about control, which is about why is it that deep in our human hearts, we struggle to grasp on for control. It is really hard to let go of factors that we if we admitted to ourselves we cannot control, yet we try to formulaically lay out our lives and our plans every single day. We almost think we can like plan a perfect future for ourselves if we just do all the right steps. But guys, today we are here to talk about how, one, we can't control all those things. Two, why it's actually freeing that it's not in our control. And three, how do we still have like peace and joy in the midst of uncertainty, in the midst of a lot of pain, and when things don't happen as we would expect them to happen. So let's jump into it, shall we? How I've started off my previous videos in this series, I want to do something similar today, which is I want to start by like you guys doing this with me, right? Like I wanted us to do this together, even though you're watching me and I can't see how you guys are reflecting. I want this to be like a group exercise of, first off, what does it feel like to be in control, to at least feel like you are in control, right? It feels nice. It feels like nothing bad could ever happen. But then why does it never settle that aching feeling, that itching feeling at you of as much as you think you've got it, you're there, you're in 100% control. You're always actually not there. You're always 99% control. You've always got that itching anxiety of what if it goes wrong? What if it goes wrong? And so when I ask the question, like, what does it feel like to be in full control? It's almost a trick question because it's like we imagine what it feels like. It seems like the feeling that's on a pedestal, the dream feeling, which is I've got my life fully sorted out. I know the answer to love, to happiness, to joy, and I know how to get there. I know the answers. That is our dream position. Like we want to be there. That is the mindset and sentiment that we worship and put on a pedestal. But why do we feel like we actually never get to that point? It's because of what I said. There's always that at least 1% anxiety, if not 50% anxiety or more, you know? And so when you ask yourself, what is that one thing in my life, or maybe it's multiple things for you, what are those things in my life that I hold so tightly onto? but that I know I need to let go? What do I try to control? And by control, it might just mean mind games. It might just mean it keeps you up at night. It might just mean you think through every possible outcome and try to prepare for it. It might mean wondering what a certain person thinks of you, right? Like, what are these things that you try to mind game to convince yourself that you are protected, that you're safe, because you have basically accounted for every possibility? Is that a mistake you've made in the past and you're constantly mulling over, how do I fix it? How do I ignore it? Is that something in the future? Is this a future outcome? Is this a job that you so desperately want? Is this a relationship that you so desperately want? Is it a person you've already got your eye on and you're trying to do everything you can to be with this person? Is it some fear about the future, right? Like, the uncertainty of the future can really hold us back. The fear of it, right? Whether it's a death, an illness, a loss of anything good that you have today, right? It could be a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one, a loss of stability. There's so much that we are worried about every day. And we trick ourselves into thinking that once I've sorted it through in my brain and gotten my hands on it, I will then no longer be worried about it, right? And that's why we give so much of our brain space and time to trying to map out everything, plan out everything, and control outcomes, control people's responses, even though, funnily enough, we cannot control these things. And one example that we might all relate to is wanting someone's approval, right? Working super hard for an approval of someone at your company, saying all sorts of things in a conversation to win over someone's approval. Sure, that also fits in the category of people pleasing, of comparison, all these different social dynamics, but at the end of the day, you're trying to control the outcome of how a person thinks about you. And so all these things lead to so much anxiety, and we still try to climb towards perfect control of all these things. And so why are we wired to be like this, right? Why? It's often protective defense mechanisms, right? Like, we fear pain. We get scared. We get scared of being scared. There's multiple different levels and across the personality spectrum of how controlling one can get across your spheres of your life. And so in our brains, right, we're struggling to control, and how this manifests itself in day-to-day life is that we are over anxious. We overthink everything. Like, instead of just doing the work set out in front of us, instead of just having the conversations we need to have, we are over preparing for them, wondering how it's going to be received, wondering if I'm going to be successful or if I'm going to fail, wondering if it's going to lead me to the next step of the ladder, wondering if someone else is going to get in my way, and if they are, how do I eliminate that? And for type A people, this might just be over planning, over like simulating, right? You have all these simulations in your brain of all the things that could happen, over planning, writing out every detail of your life. And even for type B people, guys, like people who are like, oh, I'm not perfectionist, like I'm not OCD, I don't care about planning out everything. Are you restless? Are you restless all the time? Is your leg bouncing up and down all the time? Do you feel the need to scroll on your phone? Like, all of these tendencies of restlessness, of anxiety, are kind of manifestations of the inner desire for control, an inner maybe realization that we aren't in control, and because of that, we don't feel at peace, right? We only feel at peace when we think, oh, we are free, we can surrender. And surrender only comes when you're like, it's being taken care of, right? But if you don't think it's being taken care of, and you are the one that needs to figure out things in your life, but you might not know how to yet, it'll show as restlessness. And so we try to control our futures. We also try to control people. We try to control whether they're going to approve or reject us. And then we also control our image, we control our appearance, we control everyone's perception of us. We feel like it needs to be filtered through something we've decided, right? Like I've decided to put a certain picture of myself on the internet. I've decided to write a certain resume for myself, LinkedIn profile. Like I want how people approach my identity and see me needs to go through a level of control of my own. But what are we putting ourselves through by never letting go of control? By always being dictated by these fears of what if this happens, what if that happens? What if the thing that I've always wanted, I never get? What if the person I want to like me never likes me? And that is exhausting. That is a heaviness that will never leave, right? And you can feel that too. When you scan through, what are all the things that burden me? What are all the things that I want to get my hands on so I can wring out any amount of uncertainty wrapped up in that thing? It's heavy thinking about all of it. Think about all the things we want to go right in our lives, that we want to go our way. No one else get your hands off. I want it to go my way. And so it becomes really hard to be present. It becomes really hard. Like if you're someone who cares a lot about your appearance and what people are thinking of you, you aren't going to be able to be present in your conversations. You're not going to be able to listen well. You're not going to be able to speak into somebody else's life and show that you care about them. Like they'll be able to see through that. They'll be able to see that you are mulling over, what is the next thing I'm going to say? What do I say to win this person over? Like they're going to see that you're all caught up in yourself. But it's not even just about what they see of you and how they can see through that wall, but it's about your character. It's about how can you show up for other people. And you won't be able to show up for other people if you're so absorbed in yourself and in how that conversation can be controlled by you, how the outcome of the conversation can be controlled by you. And that's just like, even if we don't want it to be, that's a little bit, it's manipulative. It's being super self-absorbed and not caring about the other person. And so it becomes hard to be present. It becomes hard to trust other people, right? I think on one hand, the trusting comes with, it's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to share information about yourself because you don't know what other people are going to do with that information. So it's hard to trust other people. But it's also just hard to trust people with simple tasks. Like, if you are on a team at work, if you are married, if you have any level of shared responsibility, which you will have to have at some point in your life, right? Like, I used to like solo projects growing up because I was like, this is all my work. And like, I get to dictate how well it's done. And if I don't do it well, it's on me. But if I do it well, that's also on me. But then there's no room for unpredictability about how well other people are doing, right? And if they're in on the group project. But very quickly we have to learn growing up, you will get nowhere if you're only counting on yourself. If you don't have trust in other people, if you distrust other people, you're just setting yourself up for failure if it's all based off of this lack of trust for other people and only trusting yourself. And so that's another way that this control can snowball into this huge distrust for other people, just because you want everything to have your name on it and done the way you want it to. And so I just think it's really ironic how like we are under there's this illusion that control will give you peace. Otherwise, why would we be looking for control? Why would we be grasping for control? Because we think it will give us peace. Once we're in control, then we are smooth cruising along. Ironically, it's actually that desire for control and being run by that fear of uncertainty and that inability to let go that actually robs us of our peace the most. And so now let's explore, what is the alternative? Is there an alternative, right? Like, is it just doom and gloom? Because like, if I'm not in control, who else is going to control my life? No one else cares about my life except for myself. So if I let go of control, what does that mean for my life? The car is going to drive off the cliff. I got to be in control. Now, let's go into what does the alternative look like. And I have a couple practical things, and then we'll drive it home. We'll land it, okay? So stick with me here. So first of all, this is gonna sound very, psychological or scientific, but first of all, you do have to acknowledge, right? Acknowledge or accept, one of those A words, of the fact that we are limited human beings. Like, can you say to yourself, I cannot be in control as much as I want to be. As much as I want to plan and overplan, things are going to happen in my life that I don't plan for, that I don't expect. Can I admit to myself that as much as I want to be under this illusion of control, that in reality, I am not in control? And that no matter how much I tell myself I'm in control and no matter how much I plan or overplan, I have to admit to myself, I have to acknowledge the sheer reality, like we're just being realistic here, that anything could happen, right? And I don't just mean like, oh, a meteorite could hit, like that, sure, that too. Truly anything could happen. Anything could happen to derail your life even, right? And we don't wish for that, but oftentimes that's human life. Things happen and we're like, completely taken by surprise. Like, I could have never planned this for myself. Or it could be something a little bit less extreme or intense, but still super important to us, like career, our love life, right? Like, we could almost convince ourselves in those spheres that we could control, because we're like, well, of course, if I'm really charming and charismatic and like pretty and I just do everything the way that a guy would want me to, they have to notice me, they have to like me. Like, if you're single, you're dating, like, is that what you're doing? Is that like the type of control that you think you really have over people and over your love life? Or if it's career, right? That's something where you feel like you actually could be in control of that, right? Like, I answer every question right in the interview. I win this person over in my interview and I get the job. What if you don't get the job 3 jobs from now? You don't get the dream job. Or maybe you get the dream job and it's nothing that you ever expected. Everything you've worked so hard for is actually maybe not what you actually wanted. There's always surprises. There's always things that we can't account for, because guess what? We're limited. If you found a technology where you can see into every circumstance, every factor, every possibility, every other human's brain around you, where their decisions are completely made apparent, like, let me know that technology, because as of now, there is no technology like that. And even in the future, like, who knows everything? Whose knowledge spans across time, across people, across generations? No human being can do that. Yeah, it does sound silly for me to sit here saying, did you know you can't predict the future? But sometimes we behave in our lives in a way where that's almost like what we believe, right? Why are we behaving this way if we don't believe that we can control the future? So shouldn't our actions reflect our beliefs? And then the next practical question to ask yourself is, okay, if you've now accepted the reality, you admit to yourself your limitations, are you going to choose to release, to let go of control, to let go of your outcomes, to let go of your image, to let go of how people see you, to let go of control of even your dreams, your aspirations, things that you care a lot about, but you have no control over. And along with release, side by side, is trust. Because the only way we can release control is if we trust that our lives are in control, that if we let go of the wheel, someone else will be driving that car of our lives. Because that's scary, right? Like, we often think in our logical minds, like, well, if I'm not in control, then my life's gonna spiral out of control. Who else is caring for my life? It's just me. I only got me, myself, and I gotta be driving this car. This vehicle is going to derail without me. And then I do know that, like, there are also people who realize they have no control over their lives and they just let go completely, right? And then their lives actually do kind of derail because they don't care anymore. The answer to this is not caring. Not caring is the other extreme, right? And is not responsible, is not what we are meant to do as humans, is to just not care. How do we release and let go of our fears of uncertainty without going into the other direction of not caring? It's entrusting our lives into somebody else's hands. Do you believe that someone else is in control of your life? Do you believe that someone is actually there looking out for you and wants the best for you? Do you believe that there's someone who has seen before you were born to when you were born to your whole entire life and sees your whole future right now and has a plan for you? And we will get into landing this ship right in a moment here, but the practical step of releasing and trusting is that it's not that we need to lose control. I do have to control parts of my life. I do have to be responsible over parts of my life. The whole point here is not to release control completely, but it's to not feel the need to have to be in control of everything. And so now we get into, okay, Emily, who is this character? Who is this person that we need to entrust our lives to, right? Who else is going to care for my life like I do? God is sovereign over all things. God knows you better than you know yourself. And he actually knows what's going to happen in an hour, tomorrow, in a year, at the end of your life. He knows all of these things. And so even when I use the terminology of like, give the reins of your life to God, or, have God take over the wheel, that's just a way of saying it so that we can understand it and that we can take the action of letting go of control. But in actuality, God is in control, has been in control this whole time. God has been driving the wheel of your car. You're just the baby who's sitting on the dad's lap, like with your baby hands on top, being like, no, daddy, look, I'm driving. When in actuality, it's your dad driving the car and you're just like, wow, I get to be in control of this vehicle. So it's just funny because like when we give our lives to God, when we do surrender, when we do submit ourselves to God's power and say, God, I have been struggling and grasping for control over my life, even though I don't have control, and it's just causing me anxiety and burden and heaviness and depression. God, take control of my life. And God says, yes, but guess what? I was already in control of your life. Guess what? I cared for you before you even knew I cared for you. And so there are a couple of these juxtapositions that are really interesting and clarifying to me. So one of them is, if I only work harder, plan better, think harder, find myself more in control, then I'll find peace. Whereas Jesus says, come to me and you will find peace. And Jesus literally does say, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. You will find rest in me. Jesus says that. And so do you believe that peace is not found when you suddenly attain some sort of imaginary control, but instead peace is attained when you come to Jesus and Jesus gives you peace? That type of miraculous peace that comes from knowing, wow, my Father is in control. He is sovereign. He knows all things. And he is the one who is in control of my life. And I trust him. Whatever calamity comes, I trust him because he allows this to happen. He will give me the strength to endure whatever trial or tribulation I go through, as opposed to being ridden with anxiety each time something happens that we don't expect. And so we know that there is a type of certainty that only God can have, that no human on this earth can have. And if we know that only God holds the keys to that certainty, why are we over here like ants working ourselves to death, completely being ridden with anxiety, when we know that only God has the keys to certainty of the future and of everything? So how silly is it to be constantly worried and anxious about planning out our lives and making sure that every outcome, every person is just how we planned it to be? Like, it is quite silly, right? But why do we do it? We do it because we're restless. We do it because we like to dismiss God. We like to talk back to God and say, no, you don't exist. I know what's best for myself. But it's kind of a cycle, right? You keep thinking, I know what's best for myself. God doesn't. And then you go through the logical process of, wait, I actually don't know what's coming for me. I actually don't know myself very well. I actually can't control what all these people think of me and all of the outcomes of my life. Is there somebody who does know all of these things? And so we follow this cycle, right? And we need to follow through, right? If you're at the beginning of the rainbow, you need to follow through to the end of the rainbow, not just get stuck at the beginning of the rainbow being like, well, this is all I know of my life. This is all I know how to live. I'm just going to keep being overcome by anxieties. No, stop in your tracks. Think about what you're doing. Think about how you're living and follow through. Literally follow that rainbow. Go through that logic of, that's actually silly to think that I'm in control. Well, if I'm not in control, is there someone who is in control? And if I'm not in control, why am I playing make-believe? Am I playing games here? Why do I want to play games my whole life and feel this type of anxiety my whole entire life? And so guys, things may not always go our way. And more often than not, they probably won't go our way. We are to expect suffering. Things are going to happen in life. Things are uncontrollable. Things are unexpected. Things take us by surprise. But even as Jesus was on the cross, even when he didn't know why it had to be this way, when Jesus was asking why, he did not refuse. He did not say, why would this be your plan? This is such an imperfect plan. No, surrender is not believing that everything will happen the way we want it to. Surrender and true trust is believing that God is still and always will be good, even when our circumstances are not. And even when it is painful, even when there is suffering, right? Jesus didn't say, I don't want to suffer. I want to do things my way. But he said, I trust even the painful way, the painful path, because it's your path. That must mean there is goodness to it. That must mean that there is purpose to this. So may we all learn this prayer of, not my will, but yours, Lord. Do we see God as Father? Do we see him as someone where we have to actively say, no, this is not my will. I need to submit to you, God. I need to not be overcome by my anxieties and burdens, because in doing that, it means that I am not obeying you, that I'm not acknowledging you for the God that you are. And so to conclude, letting go of control is not releasing responsibility, is not growing in apathy. Letting go of control is trusting God with the things that you can't control. You do the planning, the decision making, the working as diligently as possible. And when you start to feel overcome with anxiety, when you start to realize you're grasping at straws, when you realize I'm somehow growing really restless over here and I don't know why, start to identify, what are those things that I'm grasping for control over? What are the uncertainties in my life that are causing me anxiety right now? And how will I offer this up to God? How will I peel it off like a Velcro off of my heart, off of my chest, and say, God, these are not for me. These are already sorted out by you. Help me to trust you, as painful as it might be. And so if you struggle to let go, if you have that type of itching to want control over things, but it's just causing you so much disturbance and inability to find peace in your life, you'll be living your whole life in this shroud. And you want to be able to come towards a certain type of clarity. I really do hope and pray that you'd be able to go through this both logical, emotional, and spiritual process. I actually do my work better. I love people better. I listen and care more for other people when I relinquish control. So I hope this resonated with you. I definitely have struggled with control a lot in my life. If you can't tell, I am more of a type A person. I am more of a planner, less type B, but it has changed my life, like letting go and seeing how God works in my letting go, right? Like to see, wow, that situation actually turned out better than I could have ever orchestrated it, right? And to see that as proof and move forward in my life into the future and remembering the past and being like, I didn't control that situation, and look how wonderfully that turned out. So this is not a call to apathy, but this is a call to surrender control and to trust the Lord with all your heart. And that will give you tremendous peace. So I hope you have a great rest of your day and keep tuning in. We will have, I think, at least one more episode, one more chapter of this Human Heart series. So stay tuned to see what that is. I'm very excited, y'all. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!